Roberto, how are you? Welcome to my show, first of all. It's such an
Thank you
honor.
for having me.
How has been your day so far?
Well, I just didn't sleep the previous night, but I am okay. I started the day with a good coffee, so I think I'm doing all right.
Yeah, coffee always helps. In my case too, I always have a coffee in the morning. It's my routine too.
Yeah, I try to stay far from too much caffeine, but sometimes you really need it. So
Out of curiosity, actually, what's your coffee usually you have? Is it like a black coffee or something a little bit more like milky?
I'm Italian, so in the morning I have a nice cappuccino, and there is actually a French place called the Daily Baguette nearby here, which is my pusher of perfect European coffee.
That sounds amazing. Yeah, the cappuccino, yeah. Nice. That's so good. So, well, would you like to introduce yourself first? I believe you are from Italy, as you just mentioned, but I would love you to introduce to the audience.
Sure, but my name is Roberto Capodieci. Again, I said I'm Italian because nobody's perfect. And I've been spending the first couple of decades of my life in Italy. Then I spent another decade of life in the United States. Now it's 22 years that I live in Southeast Asia, based on Bali, but doing work from business from Singapore. What else I can say? There are many things I can say. I'm a father of four, grandpa of one. I have been working in IT all my life since I was a very, very little kid. I've been always interested in telecommunications, so whatever networks or protocol for communication. I've been into peer-to-peer network since the time of BitTorrent. Then they shifted to blockchain or in general decentralized systems. Been running companies, starting companies all my life. I did some exits, some went well, some less. But I like to create new things to solve problems that are long time there, and that's what I do. I've been working with decentralization and AI in the past decade, I can say.
That's amazing. Yeah, let's start by the beginning. Like you said, you started very early. How old were you when you started in IT?
Yeah. Whatever is technology was always interesting. Since really I was very, very little. I think when I was 3 or 4, my parents would bring any machinery they would find. I remember I had a cash register one time that I was working with electricity, but I don't know, the trust of my parents to let me, either they were hoping in an accident so they would get rid of these annoying kids, but they let me make part of machineries, quite scary. Then eventually they shifted toward the computer. So I had one of the first home computer before my father teach me a little bit of coding. I was 5 years old on a small programmable calculator. And yeah, that's been the start of my career, being implementing software, video games. I started making actual money when I was about 9, 10 years old. And then I incorporated the first actual legal company at 14 with authorization of the court for minors because I was underage. And then, that's been how I've been working in my life.
Wow, yeah, that sounds super interesting. Yeah, you mentioned video games. That's good because usually it's how we start with, we like video games. And so we want to build our dream video games. Do you remember what programming language did you use for your first video game? Was it like
Well, the
some
first
video?
video game was implemented in a Commodore VIC-20, which had a BASIC as a, first interface. And you can do a little bit of, I wouldn't even call it assembly, but you can call memory zone to trigger functions. So there were two instructions, poke and peek. Poke to trigger the memory area, peek to read the memory area. And this was a very big exercise because it would allow with very little memory to do a lot. So to use the 3 kilobyte of memory that were available, you need to pay a lot of attention. Then the second set and the more serious was on Commodore Amiga, which had the processors. There was a Motorola 68,000, and the assembly for the Motorola 68,000 was very interesting. So we're doing C compiled or assembly. We made, I don't know, there is a famous video game called Prince of Persia that many
Yeah,
people know.
I
We were
am.
doing that kind of game, so platform game. strategy game, something like this. There was in Italy in a certain moment where famous comics books that do have come out with their own video games. So we had an agreement with this publishing house to do the game for one of the best-selling comic books that they had. So that was something interesting we have done. We're doing also board game, t-shirt clothing, and all these sort of things. Consider I was 18, 19, and we were about 50 people at the office. So we had the 3 offices around. So it was very nice.
But yeah, that sounds crazy. Yeah, I do remember at that time, especially in Europe, it was very hard to have also a Commodore, like to order one, and you had to. It was something very like you were lucky if you could have a Commodore. Was it Commodore 64? Kind
Yeah,
of.
just being the Commodore 64 and 128, there's been a lot of machines since it was in.
So you really like you learn C and assembly at that time by yourself, I believe, just by hacking and
Exactly.
reading codes.
Interesting, there was already a sort of online community through bulletin board systems, which were people computer that were on 24/7, and you can dial line with the modem in their computer, leave messages. Usually it was one user per time or two, three. Some had the 3 phone lines, so they can have 3 computer users. And there was a network called Fidonet where you can actually drop messages that were going through this network computer. So you can send a message on the other side of the world, but it will take maybe a week to arrive because, Node would update the next node once a week or once every 3 days. So it was a very interesting networking method to reach distant nodes with messages. But yeah, it was very, very interesting.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, that's amazing. Did you like I've seen you also traveled a little bit around the world. Have you lived in the US, right?
Spent a decade in the US, yes.
Was it after Italy? So you left Italy to move to the US at that time?
Been many places for different time, whatever brought me where. In France, there was Minitel, which was a network that was very interesting. In Italy, we had a sort of, I think they arrived a couple of years later because I think France is one of the top country in Europe for innovation, for technology. Somehow very open to experiment new technologies. Italy sometimes copy after a while when they see something works. So we had what we call it video tel in Italy. And I think in France, Minitel is born on the old copper lines of the phone system. So they made a full new phone system and they used the old one for Minitel. And there were a lot of very interesting methods to get free phone lines by coupling 2 Minitel lines together. There were tricks in phone hacking they were very, very interesting. In Italy, the Videotel was backed by a packet network called Itapac, which could access through a toll-free number. So you call a toll-free number, you were inside Itapac. Itapac had port we call NUAS to go out in different things. So you can access the Videotel network from behind, let's say, from the service door. So you could enter chats and services without paying the fee that you will pay if you access normally the thing. So a lot of, but the operator was paid anyway. So we had friends setting up chats in Videotel and all the other friends accessed through the toll-free numbers. So nobody was paying, but they were making a lot of money through users that were fictitious. There were a lot of strange things going on, but it was nice period of test experimentation. And I'm talking, we were teenagers, so we were doing any sort of things. There was no law on piracy. So we were downloading video games from Germany, mostly, or the United States, and we selling them inside floppy disk. We buy empty floppy disk very cheap, and then we selling disk for a good margin after with the games. Yeah, they're very interesting things. There were alternate today will be legal. At the time wasn't illegal, so why not?
Yeah, it was like the early days. It was a bit like the Far West, like you're like a cowboy and, there were not no rules yet. That's true. And so you had like the hacker mindset which, a good engineer
Yeah,
does
absolutely.
have.
Yeah, correct.
Mm, I was interested because I love, like in my case, I've traveled also quite a lot, mostly thanks to my job in tech. Believe probably it might be also the case for you. Did you move to the US due to the tech bubble at that time, or due to
No, no,
no,
no. I don't.
it wasn't the
I had
reason?
an uncle, my father's brother, that when he was young, he got like, I don't know the English names or French, but when you are a very good student, they pay for you to study abroad. So like sort of donation. I don't know how you call
Strange.
it anyway. It's not exchange student. It's like in Italian, it's called borsa di studio. So pretty much, if you're doing very well in school, there are some funds that you can access to pay yourself studying abroad. Like you pay the school plus enough money to have some place to sleep, I guess, and some food.
Yeah, like a scholarship.
Escort, that's the correct term. Thank you. And pretty much, he was in Boston with his scholarship, and he remained super well impressed by the United States. And as I was a very little kid, like 3, 4, 5 years old, they always used to call me, for some reason, a little American. I don't know why, but and I had this thing in my brain so deep that when I turned 18, I just bought a flight. I just made my driver license. Exactly the day they got my driver license, I made international. I went to the airport and I flew out without a clue about the United States. So I ended up traveling all around. It's been a very good experience. Made a lot of friends, and then went back again, back again, back again, like this.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's amazing actually. And yeah, sometimes when we are a kid, we are a bit like brainwashed, and then we do it. Like for
Right.
you, little American, and finally
Then eventually
that
became a
was
big one. And yeah, so that I loved my experience in the United States, which being most sort of a holiday. So money were coming from Italy, was going to spend them there in the US. And I did some gig. I spoke a conference for the NSA, FBI, but you know, because in Italy, for some reason, I ended up working with the law enforcement to do software to do investigations. And yeah, and at the end, that became also one of the things that I offer as a consulting for law enforcement. I did the training all around the world to law enforcement to do investigation through channels that were not the normal, usual investigation channel of the police. So it's, yeah,
yeah, yeah, that's amazing actually. Going back to that specific topic, you the reason you are in connection with the FBI at that time, you found like a kind of not really virus. Yeah, probably it was virus, like something downloaded on people's computer, and you investigate it there. And then because people were like being charged a lot of money,
yeah.
is that
There
the
were
story?
what was called dialers, but that was before they became a known thing. So when you dial up with a modem on a phone number like your ISP, many
Mm.
times it's a toll free number or whatever, is a small application that make your modem dial the number like in a phone line and connect. And some people were tricking people in installing a dialer, but was almost invisible. So you didn't realize even that you do that, which would hang up the phone call with your SAP, call one of those numbers with added value. So you pay more, like where you can read your tarot cards, those kind of phone number that cost a lot per minute.
Yeah,
Where there
yeah,
was a normal internet connection after that. So you will stay connected to the internet without realizing you actually shifted from your normal ISP to one of those phone numbers that cost you a fortune of money. And that was remaining the default. So until you receive the first phone bill, you have no idea how many, like time you were online for hours of paying like $10 a minute, something like incredible.
yeah,
So I managed to locate these people. I sent all the information. There was no cyber police at the time. So there was, I think, a detachment of the FBI at the White House. They were at the first studying what would have been done. So I found these two people. I sent them all the information. I think they made an investigation and managed to arrest this criminal, which then I received a thank you letter from Bill Clinton at the time.
That's great. You can put it on the frame. I wonder, like, how was it the providers of those premium phone numbers who were doing that kind of shady things? Moving to the from your from your internet. Probably the internet was over on the phone at that time,
Correct.
and so it could change to a premium phone number. But who was it, to the provider of those kind of dodgy phone numbers who were doing that, or to get more money?
So, but you could buy those phone number to sell a service. Say
Oh,
you
yeah,
are a
yeah, yeah.
tarot card reader, you want to sell a service, you buy one of those phone number, you pay X amount per month, and then you get the difference based on how many people call you, right? So it
I
was
see.
people just using this phone number. There were some international number. Don't remember 005. I don't know what country would have
Mhm.
been, but yeah, which would they work internationally. I had a device between the phone line and the modem that would show the dial tone of which number is being called. So I could identify the number, even though it was super hidden because the application wouldn't show it, right? So when it was dialed, I could visualize it. And thanks to this information, I was being able to then trigger the investigation that localized the people that were doing this thing.
And you investigate it by yourself just for fun because you like the challenge with no, like no outcome. You are just
Well,
doing it
I,
for.
I realized how many dangers there were in the internet. This is a lot of years before a lot of things seems common sense now, but at the time were not. Like the idea that people feel safe in their house because when you're inside your house, door is locked, you feel safe. But they had this door open on the internet, and they didn't have the perception of how dangerous it is to share information, you know, to open this door without understanding what people were actually doing. So I started writing to newspapers saying, hey, maybe it's a case to educate people about the risks of the internet. Because there are very positive, a lot of positive things, but I even wrote an article, and this is 10 years before Facebook came out, saying, hey, it's going to happen. There's going to be somebody, young kid, that make a service and collect all our information and then can convince us what to do in life just by manipulating what we read. And it's funny because that's exactly what happened eventually later. So the idea of sharing with people this information, this knowledge in order to make them safe as being something that I always thought my civil duty as a citizen of the world to give to all the other citizens of the world, because I know if I keep it for myself, it means I endanger other people to the process of going online. So I did my part. Eventually, it is put me under the spotlight of a few times, and had his own, but I would have done anyway. If you know that there is a bridge that potentially collapse and you see people walking on top of the bridge, you will stop people, say, hey, don't walk, or walk at your own risk at least, because you can fall down with the bridge.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing because with the example of the bridge, it's more obvious because probably it's more like it's physical. The danger is obvious, but on the internet, I think not everybody has that proactivity of reporting something that looks bad.
Yeah, you see, but not only the internet. I always give this example. We give a lot of faith to software without knowing what there is the code behind it. If I turn off the light in my room, the switch, the electrical switch, physically stop the electricity from going through. So I have the knowledge that I don't need to trust the switch that is going to stop the electricity. I know if I open it, that is a physical piece of metal that blocks the. But when in my iPhone, I switch on and off something through the switch that appear on the screen, that doesn't stop anything. This off the Bluetooth, turn off the Wi-Fi. Who knows what happened for real, right? So we shift the trust to technology more and more, believing what the user interface make us believe, but it's not really like that many times. So I think this is an important thing to consider when people use devices and things. Don't trust blindly, like you wonder why there are phones you cannot remove the battery, even if you turn it off. It should make people think, right?
And yeah, actually for the battery, now you cannot even remove your battery off your phone, and
Exactly.
your phone still has power to locate you, and it's never off. But it's a really good actually thing you mentioned here, because like with the AI tools, we always see the option you can toggle on and off. Do not
Use
train
my
by
contact
data.
to
Do not
play.
train by data. We have no idea if it works. Maybe it's a fake it. They didn't implement this feature yet.
When you look at the small text in the contract that is 20 pages long, it says we actually do anyway, but like you don't know. Yeah, that's exactly in millions of cases the reason why people also fall victim of scams online, because there is so much faith on in the electronic things, like somebody making exact copy of a website of a bank. We don't discuss it. So we look at it, we think it's correct, and then we put our own information. Somebody is stealing money from our bank account, for example. That's something that happened. But, the world of scams, for example, is something that I also followed a lot and try to help. There are victims which are the most vulnerable, that may lose like their life fortunes just by following inside the wrong, things. And in fact, hardly you can educate these people. You need to educate the family to pay attention that somebody vulnerable for those things. There are online love scams, for example. Those things that are managed by organized crime is like organized crime. They invest months in creating the relationship with the victim before stealing from them. Everything in multiple manner. So that's the online world. The online world is a wild, wild west, but it's a beautiful one.
True. That's correct. It's a beautiful one, but of course, like the physical world, you always have beautiful things and bad things, and you just have to be aware that you have bad people everywhere, and not everybody has. Like for you, when you see something bad, you would actually say, "Hey, this is actually bad," and you would also write articles about it, and that's the right way to do, instead of becoming a bad person. It's not because you have the knowledge to be a bad person that you can also use your knowledge like a wizard to be a good person. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very often criminals don't have a very high IQ. People with high IQ will find a good job and make money honestly, right? Or usually the criminal are those that don't have space to resort on many other things. That's why criminals make a lot of mistakes and get caught. When you find the one criminal, there is somebody with a lot of brain, is a challenge because he will do things properly without getting caught, right? So thank God, honest people usually, intelligent people tend to be more honest than not. Looking around, it seems that there are a lot of bad intelligent people, but statistically in the planet, they are, very small minority.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely correct. I would like now actually to dig a little bit to blockchain
Sure.
and, like Bitcoin, decentralization. That's like basically it was very mainstream. I think it started to be very mainstream back in 2015, probably. And it's something fascinating, even though AI probably it's much more mainstream because it impacts absolutely everybody. But I believe in the fact that blockchain came up at the right time. How did you start being more like an expert with blockchain, and why blockchain for you? It was like, wow, I love it. I understand why it solves.
To be honest, I didn't understand blockchain at all at the beginning. I am into peer-to-peer network from way before blockchain, I was saying, when BitTorrent was there. So my idea was to modify BitTorrent protocol to make a decentralized file system. So BitTorrent index files by the hash of the file. If in simple word for people that don't understand, an hash is a mathematical function that produces one specific string out of whatever content come in. Even the nothing has its own string, like the letter A or the full encyclopedia of a movie. They just produce those strings, right? You modify one bit in the source file and the string change completely. So indexing files by their hash means that they are this identical copy of the file that you look for. As soon as you modify it, the hash is different, you lost the indexing. Which means if I have a document that I'm working on, I keep changing hashes every time I save changes, right? And so the BitTorrent protocol wasn't good for me because I wanted to index a file, even if this file changes. I can still find it, but it's stored in a decentralized network. So I was working on that. That was my core work when this was happening. And there was in the internet what was called Usenet. Usenet was a forum, sort of system to do sort of a forum, but using the mail protocol. So the Outlook application, Windows in the past, and another website that didn't exist at the he had this possibility to log in into this Usenet. And Usenet had many different places where people were discussing things. And I was into those of peer-to-peer network where there were the people that were making Bitcoin at the time. So they shared with me one source code of the Bitcoin, even more recent than the one, more, let's say, before the one published for the public. Okay. So when he launched, I didn't really understood what it was so interesting because it was so far from my scope, right? I made 6 blocks with a small computer in dial-up in a few days, which were 300 Bitcoin, because the Coinbase at the time was 50 Bitcoin. Then I formatted the computer and sell it for $200 because that wasn't doing what I was looking for. Eventually, I went back and worked in a new layer and protocol for the first proof of stake, which is a different way to secure the blockchain. And this was called NXT, Next, now it's called Ardor. And then we work with that technology, doing a lot of work for during the ICO craze. A lot of people were preparing this PDF, collecting million, and have no idea how to deliver what they were promising to people. So we were with our company behind making the solution, passing the solution to them, and collecting some money. And then when coronavirus came along, we started implementing because I had an idea. After doing so many solutions of blockchain, I saw the issue that were there and how some, system that were used not properly. So we implemented one internally that to see if my idea had sense, a new protocol to do something that was working. Eventually, the things didn't go well, meaning that we made the proof of concept very well done. That was working, but the code wasn't functional very well. They had some issue, and I lost a fortune of money in that experiment. Eventually, 1 year ago, I started recoding everything in C++, which is a language that is closer for me. And with the help of AI, I managed to speed up the process working just by myself. Now I'm soon releasing the testnet. And it's beautiful because now the spotlight is on AI. So blockchain is more for serious things, not to just an hype to collect money. So I have very big hope that it's going to be accepted as a tool to be used and not just financial things to just make fake money. Like I didn't like that thing.
Right, I see. Yeah, that's an amazing journey actually. It's yeah, so actually you started very, very early. You're probably part of that community, yeah, with all of the very early adopters. Something quite interesting, you said back in during the coronavirus 2020, you started that big project and it didn't work out. You lost a lot of money, and now you started again. That's the same project.
That's correct. I mean, I end up holding all the intellectual property of the project, which started from the beginning from me. I mean, like I had the support of some very powerful brains. When I had this idea, we took a flight. We went to Thailand, take a room in an hotel, not room, one room each, and then sit down at the Starbucks and start putting down the basis of this idea that, like the biggest job is to go from this hard drive to an actual computer hard drive. A lot of things can get lost. So doing this exercise, and it was me with the original idea. There was a guy that made the logic analysis of things, another guy in the computer writing pieces of code to test if this part of the idea were correct. And we did this for about 10 days until we had the basis of yellow paper that we started writing about the technicality, why this is interesting. It became a book, which is purchasable in Amazon or can be downloaded for free in PDF with all the journey to create this layer one that is actually decoupled from cryptocurrency. So you can run it even without cryptocurrencies. It's a decentralized platform to have decentralized applications. And I think that it can become useful in the moment that everything is centralized. If you think about the mail, okay, everybody still send email, even if it's a protocol that is not written very nice, it's very old, very delicate, because it can be tricked in many ways. But in the past, every office had their own mail server. When I send an email from my office to somebody else, another company, the mail will go from my computer to the mail server of my office, from the mail server of my office to the mail server of the other company, and then to the computer of the recipient. So there was a privacy in the email somehow, because the protocol of the email is clear, they are not encrypted. So whoever see the email, see the content, right? And if you are one of the step, one of the mail server, you can even modify the content. And now everybody use a few online services. Gmail is Microsoft is. So the email was a federated network where there were many nodes that eventually talk to each other, were the mail server. And now it's a centralized things. There are 4 or 5 that collect all the mail of the planet and redistribute them. And like this, a lot of other services that were many decentralized end up to be centralized. The biggest risk is in AI now, because AI is an instrument that is so powerful in terms of profiling people and, bringing people for a ride. And is the data center of all the biggest AI are in the hand of a very few people. So we need to decentralize AI. So use a peer-to-peer network where every node is a model that is powerful enough, but not huge. And where you use the peer-to-peer network like a brain synapses. So when you want to get an answer, you have several models that work together, and then your own model completed the last mile to come to you, and you have, a valid, democratic, powerful answer for the research that you were doing, for the query that you were doing, that is not controlled by one single party. I mean, like people use ChatGPT like psychologists, like a confident, like a friend. So we are a layer above a search engine. Already Google knows you more than you know yourself, right? So AI is really deep into you. Plus, it can push a decision, because in Google I search for a florist, and then I attend result and I choose one. With ChatGPT, it says find me a florist. So ChatGPT is going to pick the one that paid more money to be chosen first. So and this goes in many decisions that you can take in life. So at the moment it's still okay, but it may easily end up, mostly the free tires, to be a tool to make people choose things, without them even know. Yeah.
Free. It's a black box as well. Like you don't know what you have no idea how the algorithm, like why this florist is the first one, based on a lot of data, but we just have to trust. It's It's very, yeah. And this is probably like what you said, how the blockchain could help to decentralize everything.
On the other hand, is an empowering tool, AI. I mean, it's just like if a group of Gazel angels drop IQ on top of the planet and everybody increase 20% of the intellectual, power. If you think my wife and ChatGPT started a spa, but she really took a piece of land that there were trees in the middle, remote build it. The design of the spa has been done by ChatGPT, okay? The menu for the service done, the how to make sure the therapists don't fight with each other with the SOPs of the company is ChatGPT. So took away work from an architect and the place looks amazing, from a manager. It is really something that if wasn't AI there, she couldn't have had the chance to do it. So that's extremely exciting and in this, by this point of view, right?
Yeah, like for do it yourself, it's amazing. And that's also how now anyone can ship applications and software the same way as building something in your house or in your garden.
But consider one thing more, because say you have a bakery shop, okay? And you think, if I had a piece of software that did this and that, my life would be much easier, things will work much better, okay? In the past, you need to take a bet by going to a software developer, try to explain to this person your problem, which will never understand in full because never been working in a bakery, okay? Pay this person a lot of money without knowing what is going to come out of it, okay? And you will never have the correct issue. Now, the guy that's the bakery can sit with Claude and vibe code his solution, at least a proof of concept, a mock-up, doesn't matter, but he can do and prepare the interface and the flow, the logic flow, exactly for what he knows is the problem of the profession. So I think the quality of the application for specific industry, specific things is going to raise tenfold, because finally it's going to be made by the people that have the problem and not by a delegated person. And this is going to make a huge difference, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's a complete new era, that's for sure. Probably will eat soon. I don't want to last too long because your food might get cold. So what are you going to eat? Are you going to eat? I'm always curious about cuisine.
Cuisine, oh, here in Indonesia, but thank God my wife is excellent, and there is, being a touristic destination, but there are restaurants of any sort that deliver. So I can go from very local cuisine to international one in 2 seconds. That's the beauty of living in a place like this. I come from Venice in Italy, which is different because that's selling the Italian, style of things. But
Yeah,
I
that
apologize in the background. Here, my cat that is meowing is very loud. Okay.
that's so nice. But yeah, I heard the cuisine in Bali is incredible and a lot of different cuisine, different. You can probably also eat very good Italian food in
Absolutely.
nearby restaurants. So my question was how Bali is good for like someone like you really deep in blockchain and AI. Is it a really good hub as well? Singapore is one, US is one, France, Europe in some countries, but how Bali it is for
Bali
you?
is a digital nomad destination now. Consider I live here since 22 years ago, so I don't belong to that movement, if you want. I saw any sort of things coming by. After they made the movie Eat, Pray, and Love with Julia Roberts, or the book that came before that, we had an influx of 40 years old women finding love in Bali. So every season has its own things, but I think it's about 10 years that we have this huge movement of digital nomad. There was the movement of blockchain. So we had the people of a certain caliber in the industry coming here to these pieces. I had an office, it was amazing. It was a big space. I had a lot of important guests as well. And it's still, now there are more OnlyFans models coming until they get arrested. but there is any sort of things coming. Bali is a beautiful place, and there is a huge quantity of young kids that come here to do solo entrepreneurship and things. There is also a special visa you can get to stay here and legally, be working into like as a digital nomad, because if without a visa you need to stay in holiday and enjoy holiday, you cannot work. But if you want to work with an income from outside Indonesia, they have this digital nomad visa, so it's pretty cool.
It's amazing. And for you, for your job, is also really like, I believe the internet also is good.
Then it's okay now, but my job is based in Singapore, not in Indonesia. So I will go to Singapore to do meetings. The company is in Singapore, so that's where the base is. But yeah, living here is fantastic. When I arrived, I thought I would stay 1 or 2 year top and then go somewhere else. But no,
Yeah, that's so good. And yeah, Singapore, I've been only once, but yeah, it's probably for like having a company, it's better in Singapore. And then for the lifestyle, Bali, I guess you have made the right choice.
yeah, everybody's welcome to come in Bali. Is a nice destination anyway.
That's amazing, Roberto. I will leave you eating because I don't want your food to, to not be fresh anymore. But it was such a pleasure to have this conversation. And would you like anyone who wants to follow you? Where should they go to
Is it
follow?
group connecting LinkedIn?
Uh-uh.
My handle LinkedIn is RC10. So it's very simple. So you go to the classic linkedin.com/IN/RC, like Roberto Capodieci 10.
Amazing, easy peasy. That's so good. Well, have a lovely meal, and I wish you all of the best for all of your other projects and opportunities.
Thank you for having me in your show.